Pete, Alan Quinlan is with us, Dara Smith-NAUGHTON is with us as well. What were your takeaways from the game?
They were seriously good. That was the first thing that kind of jumped out. Their athleticism, their speed of movement, their catch pass. It was very difficult. It's hard to fault the Irish team in a sense of they put in massive effort. Just pressure moments caught them out. I think 75th minute is 26-0. It looks a lot worse at 40 points, doesn't it? Even at 19-0, Ireland had a couple of opportunities. They were putting on a lot of pressure, and no different than the men's team. It's kind of in their DNA. If you make mistakes, even on your own and on their line, they're capable of going the length of the field. And they got two very late tries, which is really disappointing. It shows the pace and the power that they have, because a lot of stuff that Ireland did was quite good. So they made mistakes and they were a little bit naive in their attack. One-out runners and stuff like that wasn't going to break New Zealand down. You know, we've two really pacey wingers in Baveen Parsons and Amy Lee Costigan, and they're not getting any ball, really. Their defence was superb. So, you know, even when Eve Higgins would get ball in the centre, and the pressure that Dan O'Brien herself were under was immense. So it's a big learning curve for them, and there was a gap in the quality. So I know there's a lot in that there, but you couldn't say that Ireland's line-up was bad and their scrum was bad and they were soft and they missed loads of tackles. It was a culmination of just that quality. And I think particularly just in those crucial moments, they turned the ball over, because they started the game really well. They're 7 or 8 minutes down in that 22 area in the New Zealand kind of pressure zone, and just a couple of crucial turnovers, and that was, 8 turnovers to 2. Doesn't seem like a lot, but there's 6 crucial ones in there that Ireland get punished with.
Ability to use those turnovers to score off them.
One other thing I was thinking yesterday was I would have loved to have seen Dorothy Wall, Aaron King and Aoife Wafer there.
Yeah.
They're game changers for us. We don't have that kind of depth and that quality. And they had, 3 or 4 Aoife Wafers in their team, particularly, the loose forwards, the second rows, the power, the loose head prop, phenomenal. It's the scoreline was they were unfortunate that it was 40-0, because I think it should have been, it was probably 15 to 20 point gap. Now that sounds ludicrous maybe, because it could have been, it should have been. It could have been something around that. But they're a quality team. And, if you go back to that WXV tournament in the States, and I've said this, looking at the tournament, the better teams have got better. In other words, and I've experienced this myself, when you're 6, 8, 10, 12 months out from a World Cup, you're a different beast as an athlete. Your focus on that, your fitness levels, your conditioning, your upskilling. There's a structure and a plan. And obviously when you're one of the top teams, like in the women's game, they've all got more depth, increased their skill set, got fitter, stronger.
Whereas they were peaking at that stage.
Yeah, and
so
look, and to be fair, there's a lot of the teams underneath. If you just look at England against Australia at the weekend, the dominance again. So the top 3 or 4 have got better, and the rest have improved, obviously. And you try and peak at a World Cup, and so there was a lot of quality there yesterday. I think there'll be frustration in the way like I said. So if you're being critical, I think some of the tactical stuff was poor. Some of the decision making from the girls was poor, and we should have moved the ball a little bit more. And Dan O'Brien probably experienced the most pressure she ever had in a game. Like every time she got the ball, there was somebody. The line speed was incredible. And when you have your number 10, who's not a ball carrier, making 15 carries, that tells the story of the inability to get the ball a little bit of width. The swagger and the flow of the New Zealanders running onto the ball, and they kept brilliant depth. Now, they've great pace and power, and sometimes it's down to personnel. That was a good Irish backline, and they didn't really function. So, yeah, it was a superb New Zealand performance and team. And but I think Ireland can be better, and if they take the positives out of it, they can give France a go, who put in a frightening performance against South Africa as well. I know South Africa had a man sent off, so it's France next Sunday, and they've got to kind of lick the wounds and pick themselves up again this week. And I suppose the chat going in last week was, what kind of team does he pick? What's the psychological kind of approach? And do we, do you really want to throw everything at New Zealand and kind of look? New Zealand handled it way better than Ireland did. This is kind of psychological. It doesn't matter we're in the quarterfinals. They handled it with even in the warm-up, just watching them, they were all they looked like dangerously calm and relaxed and smiley.
Ireland?
No, New Zealand.
They came out at half-time dancing and smiling already, and I kind of felt like...
You can do that
so
when you're the world champions, and
exactly,
I think is it 2 games out of 40 they have going, they've lost. One was against Ireland 2014, and one...
During the week, Dennis Fogarty said that if the game was tomorrow, if Wafer could play and then she doesn't play, what were we doing? Were we roping
I can understand it. I can see, because that's one of the ones where...
Not even
and Vinny, you're a coach, you're a best player, you're already qualified. Do you condition her for more? So what I think happened this week was they got her in there in amongst the group, but she would have been away doing fitness hits and conditioning and saying, right, if we put her in there and she's, gives 60 minutes on the bench and gets 20 minutes, how beneficial is that? She's the type of player who, she doesn't need contact. She's a physical specimen as regards the contact stuff. Take her away, do a hard fitness week and keep her for France. And I think that was the ploy. Whether it's right or wrong, we don't know. But there's no point in dying wondering next Sunday and leaving Aoife away for kind of out. Now, I'd start her, put her straight in there.
Totally, yeah.
And even if she goes for 40, 50 minutes and lays down a marker and smashes a few of the French team, But again, we're all experts, aren't we, when it's all over, you know what I mean? Would you pick your best player in a situation like that?
This is my biggest question for you, is like, and obviously the difference with soccer is you never get, like, you might get beaten 3-0 or 4-0, but like 40-0, the girls spoke about the review there. How do you review a 40-0 ahead of, like, that? It's the scars that result leaves.
But I think the reality of where we're at, you're playing a very good team, and I think there'll be definitely frustration in about 3 or 4 of those tries. Yeah. So that's where you got to try and cling on to that. It's like as if you concede a couple of late goals and you were 2-0 down a soccer match. There was a little bit of sloppiness because Ireland were looking like they're possibly scoring
in the first few minutes.
No, even in the end there, when it's in 75th minute, they get the try, and their last try was 79th minute. Ireland are attacking, they're 2 yards from the line. I think it was Brittany Hogan kind of peeled off in a flurry of tackles, and she kind of got tackled off to the side, and there was a number of players just couldn't get her on quicker. So one thing you can focus on that situation is your urgency there and your vision of tracking a player to make sure we don't turn it over.
Yeah.
So you go to the length of the field, you concede right from the kick-off, they win the ball again, couple of passes. Concentration, I think, Vinny, here is we're way too tight defensively. And they just pick us off, go down the line, score. You've got, as a coach or a player, you've got to realise the reality, and I've probably been in this situation, that you're playing against a team here that can do this to you. You must understand, if one player switches off on that defensive line, we could be under the sticks conceding. So they're the little things is all you can do.
So I was lucky enough to sit in a Leinster review, right? So I can see how you, a couple of times, how you do your review.
Fancy going down doing the Munster one, maybe.
Yeah,
that could be different.
A few digs thrown, right? But so my question this week is,
that's the very top level of the game with Nina Barr and all the coach.
Because do you focus on the last time you played France? Or what's the learnings from the game?
I think
against
early
New
in the
Zealand?
week you've got to look at this is the standard, and you've got to kind of think the their set piece is phenomenal, France, scrum, line out. So I think first thing you got to do is review New Zealand with honesty, and then convince the players that we are better than this.
So review that game first, right?
Yeah.
And my question is about and leaving out, say, for we for that is that a really harsh discussion? Is that like what scars are left there?
No,
because you play next Sunday from a psychology point of view.
And again, my impression here is, if I was coach, or if like you can't be overcritical here. You can be frustrated. So if you have any team that goes out and kind of really falling off tackles and sloppy and losing all the jewels or whatever, that's those kind of one-on-one challenges, and people are kind of a little bit sloppy and lazy, then you go after a team and say this is not good enough. Their effort level, their enthusiasm, their energy was really good, and their work rate was good. So you have to be honest in appraisal and say, look, I don't think it's beyond this team to go, well, we need to be smarter here, and our vision of looking up and where the space is.
Yeah.
We saw a kick in the second half. There was a lot of space in behind New Zealand, and we never exploited it at all. We kept running at this savage defence coming forward. You've got the breakdown stuff. And they managed, Georgia Miller is a phenomenal athlete.
Unbelievable, yeah.
They actually managed her really well, the number 7 for New Zealand. She hovered. I know she did a little bit of damage towards the end of the game, but they managed that situation very well. So Vinny, go back to your question. They review New Zealand, honestly appraise it. And, the Irish men's team lost in 3 years ago in New Zealand in the first test in Auckland, and it was, 25 point loss in Eden Park. And I have a little bit of a feeling that there's similarities. When I left that match, I thought, geez, there's a couple of things if Ireland fix here, and it's way closer. It's game on. I'm not saying that if they fix a couple of things here, they would have beaten New Zealand, but they had loads of possession, 51% possession, 57% territory. So those metrics are decent.
And how similar are France and New Zealand from a learning point of view on a Monday? Because it's a short enough turnaround, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, they have explosive players who can really cause you damage as well. So there's a couple of individuals for France that you've got to watch and manage. Their set piece is phenomenal. So big focus on your set piece, your scrum, your liner, which is given a decent return for Ireland. They're sloppy at times in a couple of areas, in a couple of lineouts, I would say. And you got to play more. So maybe they will open up a little bit. And if they take the learnings, going back to that point in the men's team a few years ago, Ireland flipped that over. They fixed some issues, and they won the second and third tests in New Zealand. I'm not saying this team are going to go on and beat France and win a semi-final and win a World Cup. No, but I think they can. They've got a real chance to go after France. But the problem you have here, Vinny, and the level they're at is with England, New Zealand, Canada, France. If you're sloppy, you're punished, and you do have to learn that as a player in any level in sport. If you switch off, if you're a little bit lackadaisical in your approach, you're going to get punished, and that's the top level of sport. It's the top level of sport. So they've got to learn that pretty quickly, and they've got to go out and get an 8 or 9 out of 10 performance against France next week.
And they need some breaks to go their way.
A little bit, yeah. So
the game in Belfast in Six Nations, France had yellow cards, and that
I think that France will be better than that. So that's your measuring stick.
We had Aaron Kane starting.
Yeah, we need to be better. But look, I'd still give them a chance. But look, France are going to be overwhelming favourites. I think, as I said, they've got better. But I would stand in that huddle yesterday and say, we're better than this. We need to be. They were a little bit spooked a little bit at times yesterday, weren't they? It just felt
like that. And Dana, like you were saying, she's never been hit like that in her life, and she has to play 80 minutes as a 21-year-old against the best team in the world. If it's not England, it's like we could have protected her a bit better, and especially since Stacey Flood has to go off pretty early on. There's no cover for Dana whatsoever.
And there's very little weakness in them. Their back three, phenomenal counter-attack. Exactly, yeah. They're in the air, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Their physicality, their abrasiveness and the carry. So actually there is some things that you can take there that Ireland matched them in. It's just that pace and energy. Like the the speed of pass and the depth, that the way they could just pull passes back and players running onto it. Like, they're phenomenal, to be fair.
And the game experience as well.
So it was
Whenever
just-
Ireland got their like a bit of momentum behind them, it felt like New Zealand were slowing the rooks down, or they were stepping a little bit offside. But it's just that close enough that they're not being caught. And it's just, that's not what we have at the minute. But yeah, they are brilliant. Like, it will be a bit of a step down to France, but we still need to take a few steps forward, I think, don't we?
Yeah, they need to be positive this week. It's the only choice you have. I think it's going back to Vinny's point about you have to have honesty in reviews, and players will hold their hands up. Show them moments that, look, you missed the jump here to clean out that breakdown, or I think they'll be frustrated as an individual because, Jesus, it's kind of like the men's team. There's this aura about New Zealand, and they deserve it in the sense that the history of their men's team and their women's team now, that you can get a bit spooked a little bit by the whole scenario. But
Straight from the kickoff, we had opportunities, and really should have scored. Is how much, when a team is trying to build its identity, would that have made a difference? Would that have turned the game into something of an arm wrestle, or would it have been 47?
no, I think you get some belief out of it. You need that kind of leadership within a group, and I think this group, it's developing, and it has developed a lot in the last couple of years, Jared. I think, of course, they made mistakes and they can be better. And there is a couple of players that make a huge difference to this team. But we have to know our place too. That there's a top level here of four teams that are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And we're just below that. And on our day, can we rattle them and get a few results? Of course we can. I think just the unfortunate thing yesterday was those two breakaway tries. It's not a defeat, it's attitude. But when you think 26-0, you have a way more positive review than saying, well, it could have easily been 26-14 or 19, or we could have got we'd penalties, we could have kicked, so it can be a different thing. But look, they were brave and they went to the corner a few times when they had kickable penalties and a couple of small margins. You can't say New Zealand got soft tries, the quality that they executed them. I think from a defensive point of view, Ireland were very, very narrow and kind of flat-footed at times.
Do you think the narrative, again, coming away from the game almost, is the narrative of France is our target almost, whether that came from the group or not, would have made an effect on those little moments? Because it seems that, like, from the outside looking in, it seems to be almost, not that they said we don't want to beat New Zealand, but it was like, no, we're going to play France and we have to get ready for that.
Well, no matter how much preparation, many times you talk about it, there'll be, emotion is crazy in sport at times, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. So they can now just kind of have none of that distraction in their brains. And no matter what happened, their best performance yesterday, an immaculate performance from Ireland, still probably comes up a bit short. That's the reality. So maybe it does play a little bit of a part. I think the question you were asking, Ger, about scoring early on, that gives a lot of confidence. When they don't, and then suddenly, bang, no possession, New Zealand for the first 12, 15 minutes, and then they just go and score.
And it's wave after wave after that.
Yeah, and it's the first try, 15 minutes, then there's another one 5 minutes later, and you're in the melting pot, then you're actually quite in the mix, even though there are 2 tries up, and then, just before half-time, it's another one, and it's probably not a bad review at half-time. It's, again, a little bit of frustration, and you're trying to get positives out of it, but execution and defence, if they could have replicated the same kind of line speed, which they couldn't. Now their attack was just sublime with the defence and the catch passed up. So are Ireland good enough to beat New Zealand? Maybe not. I don't think so. The quality is just, honestly, I was so impressed with their passing yesterday and their athleticism. It was just a phenomenal level, and Ireland couldn't cope with it. But I still think there's some stuff they could be a lot better at.
I think, to me anyway, it feels like there might be actually a couple of changes ahead of France, not just related to injuries. I think we may see a change of scrum half. I don't know what you think. I thought Avian Riley, even though, you know, it is New Zealand, they do such a great job around the breakdown and making it difficult for her. At the end of the day, it is her job to make sure we have quick ball, and if we're not getting quick ball, to let the referee know that, you know, stuff's going on and the broke sorted out. Maybe even in the back three as well. When Anna McGann came on, I thought she was quite good. She dealt with the physicality really well. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, there's the depth that's in this squad is much better, particularly off the bench, and there was a lot of energy from from that bench yesterday. So it's very hard to kind of. It happens a lot in rugby, doesn't it? When a team is down and a scrum half comes on, and they just go run, bounce, reverie, or just pass crazy stuff. And if it works and comes off and you get a bit of energy and momentum for it, you think, God, we need to make a change at scrum half, because
it's harder from the start.
It's more of a cautious approach, because you're not flinging the ball in your own 22 as a scrum half. You're settled, you're in the structure. So Avian O'Reilly has been very good. Emily Lane is a brilliant player as well. Anna McGann is a brilliant player, loads of pace as well. So of course they can make a couple of changes. They can switch around the back row as well. You know, you have a little bit more depth at loose head, at hooker as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you start Clean and Maloney, that physical presence.
Yeah.
With France being a strong scrum, you know. So you could have a couple of changes there. If you get Aoife Wafer back into this group, I think she's not a miracle worker, and she's not just going to go out and beat France.
Yeah.
But I think she'll give a lift to a few people around. And, you know, she's someone off the back of a scrum 10, 15 yards out that she'll get close.
Well, you see, the difference in not playing her against New Zealand is that...
It's the match practice thing, yeah.
Yeah, and that first 15 minutes, when we do have a couple of opportunities, chances are she gets over the line. And then that changes the perception of the team from being spanked 40-0 to it was like a 27-20. I don't think it's been wise after the event, because we did say you have to pick her. But
but there's obviously a reason here, and
a fitness thing.
Like, you play for Wafer and she goes all out for 40, 50 minutes. If she was available, and you still lose the game by 15 or 20 points, does it really matter? I think a little bit more psychological scarring with the last two tries, as I was saying, which that's where I felt a bit sorry for him, because in fairness, they were throwing everything at New Zealand and just couldn't break them down. And that's down to their quality. The sloppiness in the attack at times is frustrating. I think there was a bit of a shock with the pace of the game. Trying to get in shape a few times. There was opportunities even for Ireland to get around the corner, and they looked fatigued and they looked burnt out, which can happen in the second half of a game, but I like that when it's quite attritional and you're under pressure.
There was some talk Caroline Currid was involved with the women's rugby team at some point in the build-up. I'm not sure if she's still there, but whoever is the sports psychologist is going to have their work cut out this week.
I wouldn't say majorly, Jared, to be honest. It sounds crazy. I think, there's a bit of scarring there for sure, but you can go two ways in this and go, well, France normally beat us.
She was with Paul O'Connell's Ireland when everybody else was away. Sorry, not the women's team, sorry.
Yeah. So, of course, they've got to just have a proper chat about it, and if every player gets 5-10% better next week, they have a chance. And
it's the end of the long...
trying to talk to individuals, put their arm around them. Look, the reality of this, it's a shot next week against a very, very powerful, good French team who, they got a dominant scenario yesterday. Scored 9 tries against South Africa. South Africa, the team a player sent off early enough in the game, but.
You want more on this, or
it's the scars? Yeah, it's the scars. They've got to try and heal them during the week and get better. And
well, lots of good things from playing. That's their first big game, for want of a better word, as well. So they can learn from that, you hope.
Yeah, of course. And it was a bit of a wake up call. So if they can get the bruises and bumps sorted out, and I think they'll be better. I think they'll give France a chance, a go. It's a tall order for them to get a result again, but
we'll know the team hopefully.
When you look at the stats and you kind of possession, territory and everything, was Ireland on the right side. Sometimes, I know I go on about stats, they can be, You know, New Zealand won't be worrying about stats this morning. I haven't scored 6 tries.
Just to briefly touch on the Rugby Championship, New Zealand beat South Africa in a bit of an epic struggle at the weekend on Saturday morning, early kickoff. These two teams are the best teams in the world, right? And
yeah, I think so. You talk about intensity there, and I think it was phenomenal, the pace and ferocity around breakdown. It wasn't a quality game where you were, you know...
They were killing each other.
They were killing each other, basically, yeah. And they were so physical and aggressive, real high intensity.
Sometimes I look at that rugby and go, how the hell do we compete against that? Because it's like absolute giants killing each other.
Yeah, and then we go out and we do it. Yeah, sometimes it looks worse than what it is. It is very physical, and obviously they have an incredible record at home in Eden Park. South Africa were a lot better, and I think there was a couple of changes in the squad and in the team, and I think he'll make more changes this week. What I was hearing was South Africa were due to have a week off in the lead up to that, or a very light week, and it was a bit more intense the previous week before the match, because they were in New Zealand for 2 weeks, so that week was supposed to be a bit lighter. So I don't think South Africa will be quite frustrated, because when they get the score that brings them right back into the game, right from the kickoff, they give away a penalty and New Zealand end up getting a try, which you could see the frustration on Rassie Erasmus's face. It's every coach's nightmare when you score and you give away, give the kickoff straight back to them. It was a good game. It was a good game to watch. The other game was superb as well, and it was kind of crazy, and we saw some frailties.
Beat Argentina.
Yeah, last try of the game. They were 3 points down, 79th minute, and Harry Wilson had a penalty to level the game. Took a brave decision to go to the corner and you know, go for the try, and they got the try. They ran the try, rather than go to the corner, and they two kind of goals at scoring, then got another penalty close by, and they scored. So it was entertaining, and Australia still not sure how consistent they're looking for consistency. They could have lost that game. Argentina, you know, looked very, very good at times in that game. So there were 2 good games at the weekend.
All right, Quinny, good stuff.
Cheers, thanks, sir.
7 minutes past 9. A reminder, Off the Wall Breakfast is with the UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.